Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. UN Secretary-General Antonio says it's time for the world to recognize Pakistan as an essential partner for peace in Afghanistan. The UN chief said it is now Kabul's obligation to establish peace for the refugees' safe return. More in this report.
The Secretary-General of the UN and its refugee agency chief are in Pakistan to mark 4 decades of millions of Afghan refugees hosted by Pakistan. Guterres said Pakistan's treatment of millions of Afghan refugees has been recognized as a global model, but the international support has been woefully underwhelming.
We must recognize that international support for Pakistan has been minimal compared to your own national efforts. As we look to the challenges ahead, the global community must step up.
Speaking at the conference, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan said compassion overruled the country's economic challenges when it came to hosting Afghan refugees. Khan said growing global Islamophobia has limited the options of refugees fleeing death and destruction.
The refugees are suffering because they are refugees, and on top of it, they face the xenophobia in so many influential, affluent, rich countries. On top of it, we have this new phenomena after 9/11, Islamophobia. Islamophobia compounds the miseries of Muslim refugees.
UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi stressed that the world needs to step up its support for refugees in Pakistan. He did not mince words while acknowledging the cost Pakistan has had to pay.
The history of Pakistan's solidarity with Afghan refugees, which we honor today, shows that generosity has not come without cost. Hosting millions of refugees, it has an impact on local economies, on infrastructure, on services, on security, on the environment.
Later, the UN dignitaries held a joint press conference with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. They all agreed that there is an opportunity for peace in Afghanistan, which, if missed, would amount to betrayal to the people of Afghanistan.
US Special Envoy for Afghanistan Zalmay Khalilzad says Washington wants better ties with Pakistan. Talking at the International Refugee Conference in Islamabad, he said peace in Afghanistan will play a major role for the bilateral ties. He was joined by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to the peace process.
US Special Envoy for Afghanistan Zalmay Khalilzad says Washington wants better ties with Pakistan. Talking at the International Refugee Conference in Islamabad, he said peace in Afghanistan will play a major role for bilateral ties. He was joined by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to the peace process. Khalilzad said the US is trying to strike a peace deal because it does not want to repeat the mistake it made in the 90s by abruptly leaving Afghanistan. The Special Envoy said it was necessary to stop looking at the country's conflict in terms of winning and losing.
One side has to win, the other side has to lose. That is not militarily feasible anymore. There has to be a political solution, and that means compromises.
He added that Afghanistan's neighbors have played a major role in the ongoing peace process and that stability in the region would open up new economic opportunities for both countries. Speaking at the conference, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Islamabad wishes to continue facilitating Afghan peace process.
The most important role has to be played by the Afghans themselves. What kind of a future do they want for themselves? Do they want to live in peace? As it was said, there is no military solution, and a political solution requires compromises. Are they willing to make those compromises? That has to be decided, and hopefully that intra-Afghan dialogue will lead to those compromises.
The Foreign Minister was quick to add that peace depended most on the parties in Afghanistan. According to reports, it is possible that a peace deal may be signed between Washington and the Taliban within the month.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said Pakistan is one of the most consistent and reliable contributors to the UN peacekeeping missions. Speaking at a seminar on peace and stability in Islamabad, Guterres said Pakistan is a leader in making peacekeeping missions successful. The UN chief paid rich tribute to Pakistani peacekeepers who died in various UN missions. He said Pakistan has contributed 150,000 troops to UN peacekeeping missions. India has once again rejected UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres' offer to mediate between Delhi and Islamabad on the Kashmir issue. Speaking in Islamabad yesterday, Guterres said he is ready to help if both the countries agree to mediation. India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the issue is bilateral and there is no role or scope for third-party mediation. In a meeting with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Guterres called on India to respect human rights in the valley. Foreign Minister Qureshi conveyed Pakistan's deep concern over the curfew and the communications blockade in the valley. New Delhi has denied British parliamentarian and chair of the all-party parliamentary group for Kashmir, Debbie Abraham's entry into occupied Kashmir. Strongly criticizing the BJP government's move, the MP said India treated her like a criminal and took her to the deportee cell. Indian authorities told the lawmaker that her visa, valid for October 2020, has been rejected. Abraham said she tried to ask the reason for visa's rejection and if she could get a visa on arrival, but no one answered her. The MP said she had written to the Indian envoy in the UK expressing concern over the Article 370 move. The Syrian government says it has seized most of the Aleppo province as they advance their campaign to recapture Idlib. Witnesses say the forces took control of 29 villages and small towns north and northwest of Aleppo city. State media said the government army units were pushing further to advance around the city. It said the drive aims to bolster security in Syria's second largest city of Aleppo. Last week, Syrian forces seized control of the strategic M5 highway, which connects the capital Damascus to Aleppo. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has expressed concern over the situation in Idlib. In a phone call with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Trump said he would like to see Russia ceasing its support for the Syrian government. Turkey claims the Kurdistan Workers' Party has killed 3 people in a car bomb attack in northern Syria. The defense ministry said 5 people were wounded in the blast in the Tal Abyad district. The ministry said the perpetrator was captured alive along with another terrorist who came to the area for a second attack. It said the PKK continues to kill innocent civilians in the country. The town of Tal Abyad has been held by Turkish forces and the Syrian proxies since Ankara launched a military operation against the Kurdish militia last October. Yemen's government coalition says it has killed 18 Houthi rebels in the northern province of Al-Jawf. State media said the armed rebels were shot dead as they attempted to infiltrate a military zone. This came as the UN has confirmed that Yemen's warring sides have agreed to implement a major prisoner swap. In a statement, UN envoy to Yemen, Martin Griffiths, said both the sides will immediately begin exchanging prisoner lists for the release. The announcement follows 7 days of meetings in Amman between Houthi rebels and the internationally recognized government. Yemen has been beset by violence and chaos since 2014 when the Houthis overran much of the country, including the capital, Sana'a. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel's commercial flights have started using Sudan's airspace. Earlier this month, Khartoum said it had given Israeli planes initial approval to fly over its territory. Netanyahu said the new air corridor is the result of a breakthrough meeting with the Sudanese head of the ruling council, Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, in Uganda. Netanyahu said the fight marks a step towards normalization of the ties with Arab and the Muslim countries.
Accumulation of power creates a new approach to Israel. And you mentioned that, Arthur. You see it in the Arab world, you go there. I've been developing contacts with the Arab countries and Muslim countries.
Israel previously considered Sudan a security threat as it suspected Iran used Khartoum to smuggle munitions to the Gaza Strip. Now moving on to China, where 105 people have died in the past 24 hours from the new coronavirus, putting the death toll at nearly 1,800. The National Health Commission says over 70,000 have been infected across the country, with 2,048 new cases emerged. More in this report.
As the Chinese government scrambles to contain the coronavirus outbreak, restrictions have been further tightened in Hubei province. Elsewhere, Americans have begun to disembark a cruise ship quarantined in the Japanese port of Yokohama. People entering the United States will be kept in quarantine for 14 days. The World Health Organization says China has done a great job dealing with the crisis.
The world truly appreciates that, and we appreciate the bravery and courage of your health workers who have demonstrated extraordinary professionalism in the face of a dangerous virus.
Showing their confidence the risk is passing, multinational companies such as L'Oreal and Toyota Boshoku are reopening their facilities.
All our employees in Shanghai are active to return to work. In addition, most of our 50 Japanese workers are in Shanghai. We believe we should go through this difficult time with China together.
The disease is now present in at least 28 other countries, with nearly 700 infections and 5 deaths outside mainland China.
In widest China, authorities continue to limit public activities in an effort to contain the novel coronavirus. This has turned online fitness classes into the latest trend as people try to stay in shape. This report has the details.
Zhang Huaya owns a successful high-end gym in Beijing, but has faced a severe financial setback because of the virus outbreak. Faced with the prospect of shutting their business down, she turned to giving classes online.
For the gyms that have high rent, it's a big hit. 1/10 of our annual income is gone. But I'm a positive person, and on the positive side, if people cultivated the habit of doing online fitness and were willing to pay for it, there might be another kind of income in the future.
Huaya's business move paid off, and appointments for her online classes are completely booked. Her clients say since they're cooped up in their homes, this is the only way they can get any exercise.
Before the outbreak, I was playing sports every day. I gained a lot of weight after giving birth to my child, but I have high demands for myself. During the outbreak, I can't go to the gym or train outside. So, I follow some trainers online and exercise at home.
The new coronavirus, thought to have emerged in a wildlife market in Wuhan city, has presented a huge challenge to the world's second largest economy.
More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned with the news. Welcome back. US President Donald Trump threatened to cut off intelligence sharing with countries using equipment supplied by China's Huawei. The US ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, says Trump phoned him from Air Force One to convey the message. At the Munich Security Conference, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has called Huawei a Trojan horse for Chinese intelligence. Last week, a US indictment charged Huawei with the theft of intellectual property. Key US allies in Europe, especially Britain and France, have said they will not stop Huawei from building 5G networks, but will impose restrictions. France's former health minister Agnès Buzyn has been replaced by MP Olivier Véran. Buzyn stepped down from her post to save governing party's bid for Paris mayoralty after previous candidates' campaign sank by a scandal. She will now aim to become mayor at local elections in March that look tough for the government. Olivier Véran is a former socialist MP who was voted MP for SRA in 2017. She is a long-standing supporter of President Emmanuel Macron. Gunmen have killed 24 people in an attack on a church in a village in northern Burkina Faso. The regional governor said 18 people were also injured in the attacks. Security officials said 5 Burkina Faso soldiers were also killed in a separate incident. Officials said a group of armed terrorists raided the village in Yaga province and attacked locals. The assault occurred during the weekly service at a Protestant church. Meanwhile, French Armed Forces Ministry said a French soldier died during an operation in Burkina Faso. Gunmen have killed 22 people, including 14 children, in Cameroon. The UN said unknown armed men carried out the bloodshed in the village of Netumbo in the northwest region. The UN said a pregnant woman and several children under the age of 5 years and 18 are among those killed. Separatists in the regions have been fighting the central government for 3 years. The conflict between Anglophone forces seeking to break away from Cameroon have claimed over 3,000 lives. Opposition parties are blaming the country's army for the massacre. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 14 people died when a lorry collided with other vehicles and hit pedestrians in the capital, Kinshasa. Police said 24 others were injured. Kinshasa Public Security Chief Miguel Bagaya said the accident happened when the vehicle's brakes failed. The Health Ministry said the government will provide quality treatment to every victim. Interior Minister Gilbert Kankonde said the government will crack down on speeding vehicles on the capital's busy roads. In Peru, 8 fans of an Ecuadorian football club have died in a crash in Piura province. Officials say a bus carrying the fans went off a road and fell into a ravine near the town of Los Orangos. 37 others were injured in the accident. The crash occurred as the fans were returning from a Copa Libertadores fixture. Fatal traffic accidents are frequent in Peru because of dangerous roads. Storm Dennis has swept across Britain. The army has been called out to help deal with heavy flooding and high winds. The Government Weather Agency has issued a rare red warning across southwest England. More than 300 flood warnings are still in place across the UK. The agency said more than a month's worth of rain fell in 48 hours in places. Police said a man has died after falling into a river. South Wales police say heavy rainfall caused flooding and landslides, cutting off communities. Storm Dennis hit the UK a week after Kiara disrupted transport, flooded homes in northern England, and left thousands without electricity. The NGO End Acid Violence says there were 42 acid attacks in Uganda during 2018, but the country's police have only recorded 4 such cases during that year, suggesting the majority of the attacks are unrecorded. More in this report.
The NGO End Acid Violence Uganda recorded 42 new attacks in 2018. The youngest victim was just 10 months old. Other horrifying cases include 2 sisters, aged 3 and 5. But the country's official police records show only 4 cases in that year. Most attacks do not get reported or processed, either due to fears of reprisal or because victims are too focused on mere survival and recovery. Lynette Girungi, who herself is a victim of an acid attack, emphasizes the need for a specific law.
The first policy we want to include there is a non-bail policy for us, the perpetrators. These people shouldn't be bailed out. And we need the sentence to be clear.
According to UK-based NGO ActionAid, women are more often the target of acid attacks than men. It is thought that this has to do with the importance attributed in society to women's physical appearance, a means of controlling their bodies. Jennifer was attacked by a colleague in a fit of jealousy over her successful business.
You cannot walk. Every time you are home, you have to be in bedroom. You fear people to see you. If people see you, it's fear you. And you are crying because of the way you have pain and you're looking bad.
Acid attack victims agree legislation needs to be changed. Now these attacks are categorized under the catch-all of assault. If found guilty, some of the perpetrators walk out of the prison before the victim even leaves the hospital treatment.
The Japanese economy shrunk at its fastest rate in 5 years at the end of the last year. A rise in sales taxes, a major typhoon, and a weak global demand have all been blamed. The annualized gross domestic product fell by a worse than expected 6.3% in October to December. During that period, Japanese consumer spending covered by 2.9% after the sales tax went up in October by 2%. In the last quarter, capital spending dropped by 3.7% and exports slipped marginally during the ongoing US-China trade war. There are also concerns the coronavirus outbreak will mean the slump continues into this quarter. That has raised fears the world's third biggest economy may fall into recession. General Motors is pulling out of Australia, New Zealand and Thailand and other markets that don't produce a return on its investment. In a statement, GM CEO Mary Barra said the company will reduce sales, engineering and design operations at the Holden brand in Australia and New Zealand in 2021. The US-based car giant's chief executive said GM will sell its plant at Rayong in Thailand to China's Great Wall Motors. She said General Motors will withdraw the Chevrolet brand from Thailand by the end of this year. Barra said the company wants to focus on markets where it can grow strong returns. She said General Motors will support its employees and customers in the transition. The chief executive said GM will honor its warranties indoors and will continue providing spare parts and servicing. Stock markets across Europe are trading higher after China's central bank slashed its interest rates in a bid to aid its economy amid coronavirus outbreak. London's FTSE 100 is trading nearly 0.5% higher. Frankfurt's DAX and CAC 40 in Paris has gained a fraction. In Asia, Shanghai Composite gained over 2% after China's central bank pumped over $14 billion into the financial system, among other measures. Nikkei 225 closed over 0.5% lower amid slow economic growth. And now the weather situation from around the globe. That's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.